Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is the NFL wrap-up show for week number 14. 14 weeks in the National Football League. And we've had pretty clear weather, but now we've got snow, we've got rain, it's cold. Everything is starting to change because it's the middle of December. It's Christmas time, nearly 8 days into the month. And Joey Clinkscales, Brian LeBel join us. Joey, we're going to start with you. The weather does play a factor for both teams, so there's really no reason why any one team could say, well, they have an advantage. Usually the home team has the better advantage because they can go in, they can get drier clothes, they can change their cleats. There's a lot of things that are a part of the home field advantage. They probably have a sauna or someplace where the guys can get warm. What was it like for you, especially in New York, when the weather could change on a dime and there are certain things that you knew you had an advantage over the visiting team? Were there any specifics that you can tell, or are those trade secrets and we can't talk about those ever?
No trade secrets. Well, especially not when I was playing. When I was playing, because I'm an old guy. When I was playing, everybody was freezing. The opponents, the home team. I remember a story about Chuck Noll playing with the Steelers that we were playing the Browns. Quick story. We were playing the Browns. It was the last game of the season. Chuck Noll didn't believe in heaters, and so we were looking across the sideline, and the Browns were covered up in their jackets. They had heaters on the sideline. We had jackets, but that's it. We didn't have heaters. We didn't have any of that. So, everybody back then, old school coaching, completely different philosophy than today. Now today you have different, trains of thought. But that goes into really stadium development, how people feel. Some cities that are cold weather cities will never have a dome. That's just the way they believe. They feel like it's an advantage for teams to come up in December and be cold. So, it all depends on your train of thinking.
Yeah, and then the teams down south should take advantage of the speed and the ability to be able to run, especially early, while the other team still hasn't loosened up quite yet. They got a few of those fat guys that need that extra layer on, but they can't run the same speed. So there's different ways. One quick story. When I was at Colorado State University, we played at the University of Wyoming. We had that 50,000 BTU heater that was on it just sounds like a jet engine. And at one point, go over in the third quarter, and our quarterback is literally freezing, backup quarterback, Tom Thinnell. And then there's this unusually strange but terrible smell that was associated right about where he was. Dude, what is the matter with you? He had burned all the hair on the upper part of his, from his knee down to the middle of where his socks were. He got so close to the heater, and you know what burning hair smells like. So don't get too close, folks. Brian, do you have any cold weather stories?
No cold weather stuff. I prefer to be bundled up. But honestly, like I was watching the Bears Packers. The Bears were having receivers slip out in the cold, but you think the Bears would be prepared for it, right? But I guess the surface and everything too. Packers will tell you, hey, we love the slippery cold because they get the home field advantage, and it paid off again on Sunday. It usually pays off for teams like that. They love it. So yeah, like what you guys are saying, they're never going to have a dome. Make these Southeast teams, make these Southwest teams come play us up north. We love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You knew before the game started while the other team was warming up, whether they were shivering or whether they were fine. Mm-hmm. Speaking of a place that has a dome but doesn't need one, that's SoFi Stadium. The LA Chargers, Philadelphia Eagles in the Monday night game. They just started overtime, guys. They get 10 more minutes. They're tied at 19. This was a 13-9 game at the end of the third quarter. Eagles score 10 points. Chargers get 6. They're tied at 19. Joey, we're going to start with you. Obviously, playoff implications are on the line. Eagles are 8-4. So are the Chargers. In order to keep pace for the division for the Chargers, they have to win this game because Denver won. But the Eagles have a little bit of a break, but it'd be really nice for them to get a win on the road.
Right. I do think this is a must-win game for the Eagles as much as it is for the Chargers, because the Eagles haven't really played well lately. They've lost, 2 of the last 3 games. Yeah. So they haven't really played well lately. So they will need this win, in my opinion, a little more than the Chargers, because the Chargers really, I think their ceiling is the wild card. I think the Broncos have all but wrapped up this division. So I think the Chargers are playing to stay in the wild card hunt, and the Eagles are too, to be quite honest, but they can still win the division that they're in. So they really need this victory as much, if not more, than the Chargers need it.
Eagles 8-4. Number 2 in the division is the Dallas Cowboys at 6-1. So there's a 2-game lead there in between those Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. But what a division change. Remember last year, there were a couple teams, including Washington. The Giants have been bad for a couple years. They're 2-11 right now, but woe is us for the Washington Redskins. They're 3-10 now. They didn't score. We'll talk about them in just a couple minutes. What a difference a day makes, right, Joey?
Without question, Washington, all those close games they won last year, they're losing them all this year, and the injury bug has really affected the Commanders this year.
Yeah. Brian, your thoughts here on Philadelphia. Again, with a 2-game lead with 4 to play, you would think that that's comfortable enough. But like Joey was saying, they got to start winning again. They've had some rough patches here over the past couple of weeks. Defensive line hasn't looked as stout as they have in the past. What are your thoughts here about the Eagles?
Well, they got some help with the Lions beating the Cowboys, which is huge for them because if they lose this game and the Cowboys had beaten the Lions, they'd only be a game up in the division.
Right.
It's the way the NFC is looking right now. Best case scenario for the Eagles right now, they're looking at, even if they win 10 games, they're probably the 3 seed. And the only team they're going to be above as far as the division winners is whoever wins the NFC South. But the offense looks bad. Joey and I were talking about it before the show. Both of these offenses look atrocious tonight. This is really a defensive battle. Chargers are a pretty good football team, so if they can find a way to squeak it out, obviously you're going to be happy. A primetime win on the road, especially you got to go out west. But Eagles got a lot of soul searching to do on offense. Kevin Patullo, the offensive coordinator, we were also talking about, like, hey, if Dan Campbell is the head coach, he would not be calling plays at this point because it's ugly. It's bad. There's no explosiveness. They can't throw the ball downfield. There's no fluidity to it. It just, everything looks stiff. They look almost like, hey, we're really not comfortable with what we're doing. They're not in sync. It's ugly football in Philadelphia, but they're on the cusp of potentially being 9-4. So, not a lot of teams would be loving to complain about maybe our offense isn't as good as it should be at 9-4.
Yeah. Well, Chargers have the ball about the 36-yard line. It's 4th down. We're going to see whether they go for a field goal. Jalen Hurts is 17 out of 33 right now, so just slightly over 50%. 3 interceptions, 187 yards. Obviously not a great performance by him right now. Saquon Barkley is the leading rusher in the game, 18 carries for 100. I'm sorry. 18 carries for 118 yards and a touchdown for Saquon. So again, this game in overtime, Chargers just kicked a field goal. They go up 22-19. There's 6:24 left to go. This game's in overtime. Both you guys, you mentioned the Cowboys a little bit earlier. Cowboys end up going to Detroit. One of the weird scheduling things where both teams that play on Thursday during Thanksgiving get a chance to play again on Thursday. So they get a full week of rest, if you will. And 6-1. Cowboys lose 44-30 is the final there. Detroit 8-5 really needed this win, didn't they, Joey? Obviously, they got to keep pace with the Bears and with Green Bay, who ended up winning that game. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes as well.
This was a big game for Detroit. Their offense came back alive this week. Their defense actually didn't play too bad. Dak played really well this game. But from Detroit's perspective, they got a lot of production out of the run game. Amon-Ra St. Brown was injured. He came back to play, and I think that was a big surprise because they weren't sure whether he was going to be able to play. But he came back to play. Offensively, they did a lot of good things, and at times they looked like a juggernaut. I mean, you thought this game was going back and forth with the scoring between the Cowboys and the and Detroit. However, Detroit, I mean, some of the things with the Cowboys raised their ugly head again with George Pickens, some of the things he did. I mean, he reminded you of the George Pickens that was with the Steelers and not the one that was been so proficient with the Cowboys.
Yeah. Joey, if you don't mind, real quick, did Detroit's offense end up scoring the 44 points, or was it the Dallas defense giving up the 44, or a combination of the two? Because of 44 points at this point in the season, that's obviously defense is really struggling. But I'm also trying to give credit to what Detroit is capable of doing. They've done it a few times where they've gotten the 40s throughout the course of the year. It's just another one of those games, but they're kind of on again, off again.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of both, but I'm going to give the credit to Detroit's offense because and the reason why I say that is I thought their offensive line played as well as it's played almost all year long. Okay. Versus the Cowboys defense, especially their defensive line, because the new acquisition, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. I mean, those two guys inside, while they made a couple plays, there were times where it was silent, which tells you that the run game and the offensive line really did a good job. So I'm gonna give more credit to Detroit's offensive play calling, their offensive line, their ability to run the ball, Goff having time to throw the ball down the field effectively. He's not a true deep ball passer, but he's real efficient in the intermediate area, and he was able to take advantage of that. And again, I think they were helped by Amon-Ra St. Brown being back and at least being 90% healthy, and it showed because he was that security blanket that Goff needed.
Well, a pretty good day for Dallas offensively. Dak throws for 376. They run for 91 yards. They get a touchdown in the air, but they didn't score a lot of points. And you look, Brian, at what Goff does: 309 yards, only one touchdown. He was only sacked once, no interceptions, clean slate for him there. 109 yards on the ground, but great field position and obviously getting the ball in the end zone when you absolutely need to. They had 20 points at halftime. They end up with 44. They scored 24 in the second half. Real good performance, as Joey said. They're 8-5. They're 5-2 at home.
Yeah, with Dan Campbell calling the plays, and they're really figuring out what they are offensively with Campbell calling the plays and with Laporta being out, because they need to find that real second option. And fortunately for them, Jamison Williams has been very, very solid for them in the last couple of weeks. Last week, a little more so with Amon-Ra St. Brown's early departure. But this offense, when they can get the ball to Gibbs out of the backfield and they can kind of stretch you with Jamison Williams, then Amon-Ra St. Brown being as surgical he is in the intermediate stuff, it's they were clicking, and that's what they want to do. They didn't run the ball at a phenomenal clip, but they didn't really have to. They were very efficient in the red zone. Jahmyr Gibbs is the engine to this team, especially in the red zone, and they were good. They were surgical. They did everything they wanted to do against the Cowboys defense that we were kind of ragging on early in the year, but they figured it out. The acquisitions, they made some trades. They're a lot better up front, but obviously there's still some holes. The Cowboys had been on a little streak. They kind of came back down to earth. Prescott didn't play badly, but you mentioned the sacks. The sacks were a big deal. 5 sacks for Detroit was stalled a lot of drives. CeeDee Lamb exits with a concussion. George Pickens, just kind of some weird stuff with him. Tough loss for the Cowboys, but the Lions did everything that they're supposed to do, and honestly, what we've expected them to do all season long.
Well, Lions keep pace at 8-5. 4 games left to play, of course. They've got to surpass both Green Bay and Chicago. We'll talk about the Bears and the Packers in just a minute, but good news for the Lions is that the Bears and Packers will play each other again in a couple weeks, so they do have a chance to make ground on at least one of them. Let's look at the next game here from Sunday. We'll start with the Seahawks at the Atlanta Falcons. Close game at halftime, was tied at 6. Joey, I'm going to say that the Seahawks, they brought out a can of whoop ass, and they did it all the second half. It's unbelievable how badly the Falcons played, but the Seahawks turned on what they need to. Juggernaut, they stepped on the throat. They didn't let their foot off the gas, and they really embarrassed Atlanta. And then get their second, double-digit wins. They're 10-3 right now, and they keep pace with the Rams. Pretty good job by the Seahawks to go on the road and get a win. A little sluggish in the first half. You know how it is with West Coast teams. Sometimes it takes a half for them to kind of wake up, but boy, did they ever in the second half.
Yeah, I would say you hit the nail on the head. I think the first half, they got an interception from Darnold. I mean, they were just sluggish and sleepy and lethargic. But the second half, they woke up. The offense was a lot more effective and efficient. They were able to run the ball a little bit better, but Darnold got in the groove with Jackson Smith and Jigma. They really did some good things the second half, and they opened up a lead. And the Falcons kept shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, the quarterback had 2 interceptions, and he never really looked like he was completely in my opinion, completely into the game. I mean, it didn't look like his focus or his energy was that of a starting quarterback is how I word that. So
do me a favor, go back to something you said just a moment ago. When you were with the Raiders, I know a lot of folks will say that the West Coast team needs to come out and acclimate an extra day. Do you really think that is a real a bonus and a plus to be able to get that extra few hours and acclimate to an East Coast time zone from a West Coast team? Is that something, or is it just, hey, we should just go out and play? We are going to be a little bit sluggish because it's 8 a.m. technically when we start. When we have warm-ups what is your thought specifically, Joey, about the coming out early?
Well, I do think it's beneficial from the standpoint of, you're all week or all the last 2 or 3 weeks, depending on where you travel to, or maybe the last month, you're in one time zone. So now you come across 3 time zones to play, and it affects your body some. It affects your sleeping pattern a little bit. So is there something to it? There is a little bit something to it. However, there are a couple cities that make it even worse. Atlanta's one of those cities for players because young guys want to get out in Atlanta and go here. Miami's one of those cities. New York City's one of those cities. So on top of the time zone, you're in Miami and guys want to get out. They get out after meetings. They go out and do whatever. And that used to be a problem in Denver. And okay, I'll pull everybody behind the curtain for like 10 seconds. That used to be a big problem when teams went to Denver because at the time, Colorado was one of the few states that had legalized use of marijuana. So now when teams fly into Denver after meetings, you got players going to do what they can't do in other places in the country. So that used to be a big issue in Denver. Now, with the state's laws changing, that's a little bit different. But so that used to be a big problem there. But now, it's still Atlanta, it's still Miami, is still New York City. So when you have those elements at play, and Las Vegas, you have those elements in play, then hey, there's always that you have to worry about.
Well, for the Seahawks, it looks like none of them went out. They all stayed in. They got a little extra sleep. And Brian, they really dominated the second half. They're 10-3 right now. They're tied with the Rams in the and the 49ers are just one game out at 9-4. This is a good football team. They play defense well, and obviously when Sam Darnold is given time, he's a difference maker there behind center.
Yeah, a sneaky element to this team is their special teams is really good. Their special teams unit was huge in this game. They had a kick return touchdown.
Yep.
They had a blocked field goal. They were all 3 phases. They dominated this game in the second half. In the first half, yeah, they came out sluggish. They were lethargic, but I mean, it was just the Falcons were outcoached in this game. I'm just going to be honest. It was pretty bad. I mean, Seattle's a much better football team. I think we kind of knew that coming in. JSN might be the best receiver in the NFL right now. Darnold was a little bit off his spot. The Falcons were able to get some pressure in the first half. Seahawks made some adjustments. They were able to pick up some blitzes and maybe slide a little bit on some pressures, keep James Pierce out of the backfield. And once that happened, JSN had time to get over the middle, and Sam Darnold just found him. That's been the story all year with this team. They can beat you in the passing game. They can beat you in the running game, and this defense is legit. They might be the best unit behind Houston in the NFL. They're tough to beat. I mean, they beat the Falcons. It was 6-6 at halftime, and they finished with 37 points on the road. It's in a blink of an eye. This team is just, they have the ability to score a lot of points. They got a big game with the Rams coming up. That's really going to decide the division, I think, and potentially the number 1 seed in the NFC. But Seahawks are legit. They're for real, and watch out for them in January and perhaps February.
Brian, you've told me since he came out of college, Jackson Smith in Jigba, 7 catches. He was targeted 10 times, 92 yards, 13.1 on his average. He had 2 touchdowns yesterday. What impressed you? I mean, there's certain things that some guys have. With Randy Moss, he had a little bit of everything. He had great speed. He had great hands. He could catch the ball late and not show his hands. He was big enough to be able to take some of the hits from guys, but he's not a big guy when you really look at him. He's kind of skinny and lanky, but boy, do you want to throw it to him because he just turns into a different human being when the ball is in the air and he's going to go get it. What is it about Jackson that impressed you early?
He's got great footwork, and he's really good in and out of his breaks. He's very precise. He creates a lot of separation that way. AJ Terrell's one of the better cornerbacks in the league. He hasn't given up a touchdown in almost a year and a half, and he almost gave up 3 on Sunday. There was another one in the first half where Darnold just misses him in the back of the end zone and couldn't get his second foot down. But just what he's able to do, he's got strong hands. He's got a really strong core. He's got strong legs. Just everything. His frame will kind of lie to you because he looks kind of small. He looks kind of skinny, but he's very, very good. He's taking that next leap that Seattle needed him to in order to be a number 1 because I'm going to be honest, Charbonnet and Walker haven't been great in the run game. They've been okay. They've been good enough to win, but not dominant enough like some of these other teams. Like you watch the Rams run the football, they're dominant week in and week out, right? Chicago's getting there. The Packers, Josh Jacobs is when they need to be. The contenders in the NFC. And Smith and Jigba's done a good job helping to pick up the slack offensively, but I need to see the run game get going, but it's just, it looks effortless to him almost, right? It's just every single route, the out cutting routes, the in cutting routes, the vertical stuff, the short stuff. He's going to make a catch, and it's hard to get him down when he's got the football in his hands. It's a recipe for disaster if you're a defensive coordinator or a DB playing against him.
Well, they are 10-3 right now, the Seattle Seahawks, with a big win in Atlanta, and they're right where they need to be. They're tied for first place. So congratulations on a 37-9 final there with the Seahawks in Atlanta. Next game we're going to look at, first snow game of the year that you almost wanted to watch. You had snow angels by some of the players after touchdowns. And Joey, one thing that impresses me is Joe Burrow. Goodness gracious, they're so much more competitive, the Bengals are, when he's in the lineup. They had a chance to win it there at the end of the game. 39-34 is the final. Bengals fall to 4-9, and the Bills are 9-4.
Well, I'm gonna start with Cincinnati, because you're right. Joe Burrow is a special football player, because you watching him play, you would have never known that he had missed, almost 2 months with a foot injury. He was throwing the ball around in the snow. It's like it didn't bother him at all. The one time it bothered him, I thought, was that first interception where he was trying to get the ball out quick to a guy, and the guy picked it off right when he was throwing the ball and ran it back for a touchdown. I thought he never had the grip on the ball to throw the ball. He was just trying to catch it and get rid of it, and that's why it came out really, really soft, and it was an easy interception, ran back for the touchdown. And unfortunately for Cincinnati, the very next series, the ball get tipped and picked off again. So uncharacteristically, there were two turnovers in a row. But I thought the first one was caused by the element. And then you talk about Buffalo and Josh Allen. He's running up and down the field. I mean, he made some great clutch throws when he needed to, but when things weren't open, he would fake a throw. He'd get the defensive back up in the air, and he'd either reload it or take off running. And there were a couple of times when that line parted like the Red Sea, and he took off running. And so that it was a big win and an impressive win by Buffalo, and just unfortunate for Cincinnati, because I think Cincinnati really, they have enough with Burrow at quarterback to really be a really competitive and a playoff caliber team, which they probably won't get in at this point. I think this loss probably put a nail in the coffin for them.
Pretty much. Bengals can't run. They had a total of 62 yards, but 276 in the air, 4 touchdowns. And Joey mentioned those 2 interceptions. That was a big part of it. Burrow was only sacked once. Brian, between James Cook and Josh Allen, 158 yards between the two of them. They had 183. It was enough for them to be able to go 6-1 at home, and they keep themselves close. They're not on pace with New England, who had a bye week, but at least they made up some ground a little bit. In terms of the wild card, this is a big win for a team that's been really struggling the last couple of weeks, up and down, down and up. They really needed this win, didn't they?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is when you have number 17 at quarterback, this is something you could do every single week. I mean, he's 22 of 28, 251, 3 passing touchdowns, 9 carries, 78 yards, and a rushing touchdown in the snow, in the elements. Seemed unbothered, was still rolling out, still extending plays, made a lot of plays. This is a very close game. The Bengals played them very well through the first 3 quarters. It took 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter for Buffalo to pull this one out. But like Joey said, it's kind of unfortunate because I think this Bengals team is pretty good. They figured out a lot of things on defense a little bit too late, I think. Burrow going down was unfortunate, but I mean, they go back, watch the tape, the game against the Jets. You go back and watch the games earlier in the year where they're giving up 40 points. Flacco and the offense are moving the ball. They couldn't stop anybody. And that element of the Bengals, what they are, that reared its ugly head again on Sunday. It's just when they needed stops, they couldn't get it. I'll give Joe Burrow credit. I'll call it a heroic effort because 4 touchdowns coming back from an injury. I mean, he's basically still in week 1, week 2 mode, right? He's not anywhere near where he needs to be as far as being loose and fluid and everything in the offense. And he's still playing really, really well. It's just like Joey said, it's unfortunate. I think their season's probably over with this one. And, Bills keep pace in the AFC East, and they got to win every game from here on out because the Patriots are just they're a juggernaut right now. They're just they couldn't win this week because of the bye, but they're just they're rolling too.
Well, you mentioned the quarterbacks. Let's switch to the next game. Tennessee on the road goes to Cleveland, another atmosphere where the snowflakes were falling. And this is the rookie quarterback bowl. Shedeur Sanders had a good game, if you ask me, Joey. 364 yards. He had three touchdowns and an interception. He was sacked twice. Cam Ward, not as much, but they ran the ball a lot better. Cam threw for 118 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But those 184 yards on the ground really was enough for Tennessee, 2 touchdowns that they get there in the rushing attack to keep pace and win this one by 2 in a close one.
Yeah, that was the difference in the game. To be quite honest with you, Tennessee's ability to run the ball. They were able to control the clock for the most part because they could run the ball, and they did some good things. Shedeur Sanders, I was talking to my friend, I'm gonna give him a shout out, Charles Dunn. He lives in Vegas, but we were talking on the phone, and like I was telling him, because you have a faction of people around the country, and rightfully so, that are really pulling for Shedeur. And he needed to do 3 things to hang on to the starting lineup and to hang on to the start at quarterback. He needed to play within himself, not try to do too much. He needed to be able to show that he could do things that Dylan Gabriel couldn't do. I think so. Those first 2 things he's checked off pretty well, because they've had big plays down the field that Gabriel couldn't do. And the third thing is, as a leader and as a quarterback, is make the players around you better. Okay, he's made Jerry Jeudy look like a 1B. I don't think he'll ever be a 1A, but a 1B. The running back Ford has made a ton of plays out of the backfield catching the ball. So I think Shedeur has not only solidified the quarterback position, at least for the rest of the year, but it makes you wonder if the players saw this in practice, and maybe they didn't, but I'm assuming they did. The players saw this in practice, and some of the coaches saw this in practice. Why did it take the Browns so long to get to this point? And I know Gabriel was going to get the first opportunity because he was a 3rd-round pick, and you were going to do that. But from a skill set perspective, their skill sets were night and day. So I'm just curious how this will shake out in the end. And again, we're talking about a quarterback that just lost the football game to another rookie who actually didn't play bad. I mean, he has even less to work with than they do in Cleveland because they can't run the ball. They don't have speed on the outside. Defensively, they're up and down, mostly down. But Tennessee did enough to win the game because they were able to control the clock, run the football, and make timely passes.
It certainly helps when you can do that, especially when you can't do it. We can't run. We're not very good at this. So defensive, we get penalties and all that. But, Brian, they get their second win. I think it's more of a confidence booster for Cam, even though he didn't play well statistically compared to Shedeur. Guess what? He got the win. 2 points was all it took. Browns relinquish a 3-point lead at halftime, and they end up losing by 2. They fall to 3-10. Give me your thoughts here on this one.
Well, interestingly enough, this is one of the worst defensive performances the Browns have had all season. And this is a game coming in. We said, hey, Myles Garrett might break the sack record today, right? Looking at this Titans offensive line. And I don't think Tony Pollard's at 160 yards total in the last month, let alone, in a game. It's kind of, mind-boggling. But I think the game plan was, listen, we don't want to get our first overall pick killed, right? We want to try to run the ball. Let's take some pressure off him. We don't want him to have to drop back 40 times because the best defensive player in the league is across from him. Let's try to, tone it down a little bit. And going into the week, I think Myles Garrett said he's trying to go for 4 sacks, something like that. But Titans did a pretty good job up front. They schemed really well. When you can run the football well, it becomes a lot easier, right? And you say that every single week, like, hey, let's run the ball well, but it's a little more complicated than that. But if the Titans can continue to do this and build off of this, and I think they got a pretty good running back room, that might be the strength of their team on offense other than the quarterback position. But if they can run the ball well, play action, create some more time, be efficient in the red zone, which they were, get the ball to some of these young receivers. They're going to have to bring in some more talent next year. But this is kind of a glimpse of what the Titans can do with Cam Ward. Like you said, the numbers weren't great, but he played well enough for them to win the game, which there hasn't been a lot of that for this team so far this season. And it's something to build off of. And I'll say this, I think Shedeur played more than well enough for the Browns to win too. So you got 2 young quarterbacks. I personally love seeing it when you get two young guys that come out and look really well and play really well and look like they're progressing, because I think it's good for the league. And, to have them kind of go head to head was pretty cool. I know they were friends going in and they went through the combine and the draft process and everything together. So that's, it's pretty cool to see. And then the Browns are kind of in the same boat. Both teams are just kind of a mess on offense, and they're just trying to figure out what the heck they are right now and what they do going forward.
Well, let's move on to the next game. Washington Commanders 3-10. They lose miserably. This wasn't even funny. 31-0 is the final. Minnesota goes to 5-8. You use two young quarterbacks that we just talked about. Well, there's an old and a young quarterback that couldn't do anything. Together, Marcus Mariota, Jaden Daniels throw for 99 yards. They had no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Each was sacked once. They run for 107 yards, but really, Joey, I'm just going to tell you right now, this was probably more important for Minnesota to build a little bit of confidence with J.J. McCarthy. He throws for 163, 3 touchdowns, no interception. And you could just see the relief on the offense, whenever they'd score, how they're, man, it's been a long while since we've looked this good.
Yeah, I think when you have a young quarterback, you have to take the victories where you can get them. And for JJ, I think he played well enough versus this defense to be able to breathe a sigh of relief this week. Defensively, Minnesota did some really great things. Washington, on the other hand, I'm really disappointed in the fact that they even brought Jaden Daniels back. I know he probably wanted to come back, but with an elbow injury like that, you fall on that elbow. Guess what? It's going to set you back further. And I know he re-injured it and didn't come back in the game, and then you put Marcus Mariota in, and he did a few good things. But Washington, you could physically see when Jaden Daniels went down, the air come out of that team. Now they were already behind and hadn't scored, but it was like the air went out of that organization. Is like, not again. Yeah, not again. And so that's when the organization, the head coach, the general manager, you have to protect the quarterback from himself. He may be ready to play. And obviously everybody's going to want to play because you're a competitor. But you have to protect him from himself. And I don't think what the Commanders did that with Jaden Daniels this week.
Yeah, Commanders fall to 3-10. Again, they get shut out on the road in Minnesota. 31-0 is the final. Minnesota is now 5-8. Next game, Dolphins at Jets. Brian, I'll start with you on this one. Is there a coach in the National Football League who might have been on the hot seat about a month ago and now going, what do you think about me now, guys? They're 6-7 right now. 34-10 is the final there against a now 3-10 New York Jet team.
Yeah, I'll say a month ago I was saying, hey, just go ahead and let him go and cut ties now. But funny enough, this team, after losing Tyreek Hill, has kind of found an identity, right? They're running the ball more. It's for Devon Achane is probably their best player, and they're not forcing the ball to him, but they're saying, hey, we're going to play off of this guy. We'll get the ball to Jalen Waddle when we need to. They bring in Darren Waller, who's been banged up a little bit. I believe he was back this week. But the defense and the special teams, again, I mentioned earlier with the Seahawks, big facets of the game, right? It was huge for them. The Jets get a little banged up at quarterback. They're not healthy at receiver. They're just a bad football team all around. But they're beating the teams that they should beat. They're beating the bad football teams, which is kind of where you need to be. You'd like to do it before you have 7 losses, right? You'd like to be better than, I think, what they were like 2-6 or something at some point. Like, you'd like to be a little bit better than that before you start winning games. But, they have looked better. They have improved. And, whether or not he stays with the Dolphins, I think Mike McDaniels is making his case to at least be an OC somewhere next year.
Yeah. Joey, who would have thought? They were telling Tua that he can't talk in press conferences, and there were guys all over the place that couldn't really talk to the press either because there's just so much junk that you don't want anybody to know about. But is this a case where the Dolphins played that well, or the Jets just didn't play well at all?
Well, a couple things. I don't know if I owe Mike McDaniel an apology or not. But maybe I do for calling him dead man walking about a month ago. Now, do I think now that being said, do I think that he needs to be back there next year? I don't, because I don't know if they're going to get better. They're going to be better than 500 or below team next year. Once the smoke settles. So I can't say that. So maybe it is time for a change down there. But the Jets, there's nothing right now to hang your hat on. I mean, offensively, you need a quarterback. You need 2 quarterbacks. You might need 3 of them. You have a running back who can run the ball, but you don't have a very good offensive line. Your special teams are the best thing about your football team right now because you still have the ability to score on a punt or a kickoff at any given moment. So your special team coach is the one that's earning his pay right now more than anybody else. So, but they're an organization in flux. I think they thought they would be better. I think thought they'd be better defensively, but they trade the best 2 defensive players. So that automatically tells you that they're in a rebuilding mode, although they won't tell you that publicly. But the way they play on the field certainly shows that. And then, Tyrod Taylor gets hurt in the game. Fields was hurt in practice, so he didn't suit up. So now you're on your 3rd quarterback, a kid that, give him credit. I mean, he had enough moxie to come in and at least play and know the plays and do some decent things. But, they're in a world of trouble.
Yeah, they are. A long season with only 4 weeks to go. Let's just put it that way. A lot of things can happen. And if you're a New Orleans Saint fan, you think, wow, we didn't stand a chance going into Tampa. They end up pulling this one out. Joey, I'll start with you on this one. You cannot give an NFL football team, I don't care how bad they are, a chance to win and believe that they can win. They might take advantage of it. They were trailing by 3 at halftime. It was 10-3. They end up winning at 24-20. 3-10 New Orleans. Tyler Shufka is 144 yards. They rushed for 139. They did not outrush or outthrow. Baker had 122 yards. They had 179 with the touchdown on the ground. But New Orleans said, hey, just give us the ball there at the end of the ball game. We got a chance.
Well, this was probably the shocker of the day. I didn't expect New Orleans to go into Tampa and win. Now, it's a rivalry game. And right. Everybody that knows this division knows about the Saints and the Buccaneers and the Panthers and the Falcons. So, this is a rivalry game, so it means something to these guys. But that being said, it was an ugly football game to watch. The rain was going on. I mean, the ball, nobody was really doing much offensively. It was more of a defensive game, and people were slipping and sliding. But all that being said, if the game is close, it can go anybody's way. And to give the New Orleans Saints credit for not giving up on the season. They were a 2-win team coming in against a rival that they came in, and they were prepared to upset this team. And defensively, they played pretty good, especially in the second half of the game. So I got to give the Saints credit. They were prepared. They were ready to come in and play. They're starting a rookie quarterback who didn't play awful. He was 13 for 20. With the 1 interception, but they did just enough to win the football game. And that's all it takes when the weather is an equalizer. And I think the weather down there this weekend was an equalizer. I think that really played into the hands of the Saints because they were, from a talent standpoint, they were certainly undermanned from a talent standpoint. But I think the rain and the weather was an equalizer, and they did enough to win.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay is struggling. They look so good, and we're winning these games early in the season, Brian. Injuries and just everything seems to slow down right now. They lose a game to Carolina, who was idle this week, didn't play. Tell me where I'm wrong. I just don't know if there's enough push left in Tampa when they play this badly at home against a team that they should beat. Where am I wrong? Is Tampa just need a little more time to get 2 or 3 of their guys back, or is this a team that just looks like they're struggling offensively and they look tired and old?
Well, Bucky Irving is back. Chris Godwin is back, and the offense looks worse than it did while they were out. It's just that they're not – 122 pass yards. I know the weather was kind of nasty, but 122 pass yards against this defense is pretty subpar. That's not good. I think Baker's still hurt. He hasn't been the same, but – if you go back and you watch the tape on the Rams, I think teams have kind of figured out what they're trying to do offensively, and it's been ugly because this offense, there's not really anything clicking for them, right? They're running the ball decently well. Bucky Irving was a guy, used to be a lot more explosive. I know he probably isn't 100%, but we're week 14 now. The Carolina Panthers, they're now tied for the division lead because you lose to a 2-10 football team coming in your place. This is a game you got to have if you want to be a playoff team. And, it's still going to be decided the last couple of weeks because Tampa plays Carolina twice in the last 3 weeks of the season. I don't know who scheduled that, but they knew what was going to happen in this division. Kudos to them. But give some credit to Tyler Shuck, though. New Orleans looked good. They might have found something at quarterback. He didn't do a ton with his arm, but he made plays with his legs. He extended plays. He moved the pocket around when he needed to, and he did enough to win a football game on the road in the division against what looks to be a playoff team. So give him a lot of credit. But yeah, it's dark times for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's not good, and I don't know if it's going to be a year where 8 or 9 wins is enough to hoist the division trophy when it's all said and done.
Well, another team that's really struggling lately, and Joe, you've called them out a little bit. The Colts had a favorable early portion of the schedule. They're struggling right now. This one wasn't even close. 36-19 is the final. They go to Jacksonville. Yes, it was raining there as well. They rushed for a total of 89 yards. They had 196 total in the air, but most importantly, Daniel Jones, not only out for the season, but he'll probably miss a portion of next year. Is that what an Achilles will do? Is that a full injury? I mean, a full year with the injury?
Yeah, I think it's a full year, and he was a guy that was playing on a 1-year contract, so it'll be interesting. So he probably, my guess is, won't play until later in the year when he signs with someone after workouts and he shows he's healthy, which is unfortunate for him. But like most injuries, this all happened, in my opinion, and I'm not a doctor. I know a lot of doctors. I've been around a lot of doctors, but this happens most likely because he was dealing with an injury on his right leg, his foot. He had a fracture. So now you're putting more weight, you're putting more exposure on the opposite leg. And then when you do that and something happens and you've already fatigued that leg, then things like this happen because you're dealing with another injury and you're trying to take as much pressure off that injury as possible. So it's really unfortunate for Daniel that he got hurt because, in my opinion, even before this, I was concerned with the schedule they had going down the stretch that they had won their last game already. And I'm not sure
Really?
sure I see them winning another game the rest of the season. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Offensive line, they're just not pushing the same way they do. But let's give some credit, Brian, to Jacksonville. Obviously, 36 points. We've been kind of critical of Trevor Lawrence. He throws for 244. He has 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was not sacked. Kind of a clean pocket, if you will. They only rushed for 103 yards, but 36 points against a Colts defense. Obviously, 28 of those in the first half. They really dominated early and often in this one.
Yeah, and give him some credit. They've been sensational. The defense has as well. They've won 4 in a row. The Jaguars have, and the biggest harp I had on them was some consistency. Right, I want to see them put it together week in, week out. I want to see Trevor Lawrence be a little bit cleaner, fewer turnovers, which I don't think he had any in this game. They've kind of done everything the right way the last month. It's been really good football top to bottom. I think they're starting to believe in themselves. They were a young team with the new coach, and you can't really tell that anymore. They've kind of found their niche. They found who they are as a team. They're playing defense. They're running the ball well. I think realistic sky's the limit for this team. I don't know if they're as good as like where Buffalo is. I don't know if they're as good as New England right now, but they're confident, and that's saying something for them. They're winning a lot of games. They're going in the opposite direction in Indianapolis. They only got 2 games really left on the schedule that I could see them maybe losing, but Jacksonville Jaguars have a chance to maybe sneak in and get the 2 seeds a long shot, but they're looking at potentially the 3rd seed in the AFC. A very good, very strong field in the AFC right now, and it's just the Colts were there. They're reeling. The Daniel Jones injury is unfortunate, but Joey was kind of spot on. This team has been playing well for a while. They're playing all their good, all the tough games now, and it's just the wheels are falling off. And fortunately for the Jaguars, for them, they get a win in the division. They kind of separate themselves from Indianapolis as well. It's just a mess. But the Jaguars they're looking good. They're looking like they could be potential contenders, down the stretch.
And one other thing about the Colts, right quick. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please do. Go right ahead.
But their backup quarterback, Leonard, injured a knee, so
Yeah.
he's out.
Yeah.
So they don't have a third quarterback on the roster. I mean,
Phillip Rivers is getting
right.
the call.
They're bringing a 44-year-old quarterback
who is Hall of Fame eligible next year. I don't know what the rules are if he takes a snap, if he's got to wait another 5 years, but they're bringing in
I think so.
Hall of Fame eligible grandfather. That's where we're at now with I don't know.
And so Anthony Richardson is not coming back. He's probably taking his last snap as a Indianapolis Colt player. I'm guessing at this point. So it'll be interesting.
Do me a favor. Is it nice for you, Joey? And I'll ask you the same question, Brian, in just a second. Is it nice to see a sellout crowd in Jacksonville and the fans going kind of nuts a little bit? It's been a long while, and it's one of those markets that's so small next to Green Bay, but they don't have the fan base that Green Bay does. I'm sorry, Jaguar fans. It's just not. That's one of the more traditional and awe-inspiring fan bases in the world. But you're winning, and your fan base is excited. It's a great place to be right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think. But to be fair to the fans, they haven't had a whole lot to cheer for. I mean, if you're going to the stadium because you love the team, because you have a professional team, that's one thing. If you're going because you're competitive and you love a team that's winning and you can follow them and travel around the country with them, then Jacksonville have really hadn't in the last few years haven't given you a whole lot to be excited about.
Yeah. Brian, your thoughts here? Jacksonville, you watched on your 4-screen NFL
Quad box.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. What was it like for you just being able? Hey, it's nice to see. At least in my opinion. Your thoughts here on Jacksonville and the fan base?
Well, there's still people in the pool. It's December and there's still people in the pool. I don't know
I'm
how.
jealous.
Listen, when the weather's nice and the team's playing well, heck yeah, everything's going great for these guys right now. But the last time they had this kind of buzz, and it's kind of overshadowed a little bit because, like I said, the AFC right now, the talk of the town is the Broncos and the Patriots, right? But it's 2017 when they went to the AFC Championship game, and they were really a quarter of football away from knocking off Brady and the Patriots and going to the Super Bowl. That's the last time we kind of had this excitement in Jacksonville. Blake Bortles, shout out Blake Bortles. That was the last time this team was. Jalen Ramsey was also playing a lot younger and a lot better football there too. But listen, man, those teal uniforms might be ugly, but the football's pretty right now in Jacksonville, Florida, and sellout crowds are always nice, especially when
I kind of like the teal, the black, the Mark Brunell, way back when, but it is what it is. Well, one of the more unique jerseys also in the National Football League, one of the cheaper organizations, if you don't like them, because they only can afford to put a helmet sticker on one side. Steelers I think they steal this one. They really needed this win, didn't they? Obviously for, them to have the same record, but go into Baltimore and take it to them the way that they did. 27-24 is the final, Joey. Your thoughts here? Aaron Rodgers with 284 yards and a touchdown.
This was a big game for the Steelers. They needed this in a multitude of ways. They needed this for their psyche, for their fans, for themselves, for the coach, for everybody, for Aaron, for DK Metcalf. They needed this for the defense. So they needed a win in the worst way. And this was a tough one because guess what? Your most hated rival is where you're going to play. Yep. And you're on the road, and, they band together. And Aaron has said during the week, we're going to be okay. And he knew something that maybe everybody else didn't because they opened up the offense. They went down the field when they needed to. Aaron scrambled for a touchdown and gave you the discount double check move. But his arm, he threw the ball great when he had to. They found a little bit of a run game. It's still not great. I still don't know how much if they rushed for 100 yards. My guess is they didn't.
No, they rushed for 34.
Exactly. Exactly. But they did enough on the passing game to spread it out to get DK involved down the field vertically twice on plays to open up the defense a little bit. And we know the Ravens have been struggling on defense this year. Yeah. And Lamar didn't play up to the Lamar standards a lot of the times, although he did run the ball effectively when he had to.
Well, speaking of running, Brian, 217 yards on the ground. They only had one touchdown, but there are statistical ways of saying there's no way we should have lost this game. We ran for 217. We threw for 219. Aaron Rodgers threw for 284, but 34 yards, and you still get a win. Steelers, did they get lucky, or was this just a matter of, like what Joey said, the Ravens defense, they just can't stop anybody right now?
The Steelers were efficient scoring in the red zone, which is something they really haven't been. They moved the ball down the field. Aaron Rodgers was really good. He looked not quite vintage Aaron Rodgers, but he was moving the pocket. I mean, 284 yards, all things considered, for what they've kind of the offensive duds they've put up in certain instances this year is really good for them, especially when you have no run game to hang your hat on. But it was funny seeing Rodgers do the discount double check. You can see Tomlin too. He hit it even harder than Rodgers did.
Yeah.
You can tell, like, it was a lot of weight off his back because this team was struggling. If they would have lost this football game, I think there would have been some rumblings in Pittsburgh about, hey, maybe we don't just need a new quarterback next year. Maybe we kind of need to rehaul the whole coaching staff, which, credit to him. I don't think he's ever had a losing season. But with Cincinnati losing, and I think Pittsburgh kind of establishing themselves and saying, hey, listen, we've struggled, but I think we're still the best team in the AFC North. I still think they're in the playoffs. I still think they got a chance. Obviously, once you got to make it to the dance, right, before you can win the whole thing. But on the flip side for the Ravens, their offense just isn't clicking. They're moving the ball, but they're kind of in the opposite direction. They're moving it efficiently, but they're not scoring in the red zone. If you go back and you watch the last play of the game, they had a chance to go ahead and take the lead, and Lamar's rolling out. He doesn't see DeAndre Hopkins. He's a little late in the back of the end zone. He's wide open, and because of that, he makes the throw, and the timing's off, and Mark Andrews comes across the middle, and he thinks the ball's to him, and it gets tipped, and it's just that they're out of sync. They're out of sorts, and you can kind of tell when your quarterback misses a little over a month, that's going to happen, right? That's to be expected, but this is a game that, Baltimore, from where they were a month ago, this game was circled on the calendar, right? Hey, let's get to 6-6. Let's play Pittsburgh at home. And depending on what they do, it's a huge chance for us to get, not just back in the division, but to get ahead. And, they kind of squandered everything they worked for the last month. And it's just, they kind of look like the Ravens of old, the team that dug themselves in the hole. Because I know Lamar's out, but like Joey said, this defense was struggling, and it's just, they weren't very good. I don't want to give us credit either, but Joey and I last week were very, adamant in calling out Pittsburgh, saying, hey, maybe throw the ball down the field a little bit. I don't know if they're listening, but they did, and it worked. So, hey, kudos to the Steelers. It's always tough to go win on the road in the division, and they did exactly that, and they needed it more than they needed this one really badly.
Hey, Joey, the relationship and how important it is from a marketing standpoint and all that. Is Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers going to do a commercial now to offset what Mahomes and Andy Reid were doing? Hoof, Scoo-Doo, no, I'm not saying that. There's some pretty funny ones that are out there. Everybody knows it, but
yes,
when your head coach is doing it for free, there might be a commercial.
Absolutely, you're right.
Well, a team that probably should be in the ad papers, in social media and everything. Denver Broncos at 11-2 right now. They go on the road. Vegas was a nice visit. They win by 7, 24-17 the final. They beat the 2-11 Raiders. They just keep getting their job done, don't they? I mean, it may not be the fanciest thing, whatever. 3 touchdowns, 1 per quarter in the first 3. They get a field goal in the 4th, and that's just enough to win. And Broncos just keep finding ways to win, Joey.
I saw most of this game, and it really wasn't as close as the score would indicate. I thought Denver did some really good things. Now, the Raiders' defense is pretty good, and Geno made it play a 2 here and there. They still don't do a very good job running the ball right now at times. But Denver is a pretty well-rounded football team. And again, they have a young quarterback that keeps finding ways to win. He was really efficient with the ball. Didn't throw for a ton of yards, but he was really efficient with the ball. And defensively, again, we've talked about Denver's defense all year. Denver's defense has been pretty good all year long, and they showed that again in Vegas. And again, another big rivalry game. When I was with the Raiders, this was always a rivalry game, obviously circled on the calendars, this game and the Kansas City game for sure, because the Charger game was always like a home game because we always have a lot more fans than they would have. But but so this was always a big game. So this was always going to be a tough game for Denver to come in and win, especially in Vegas, but they took care of business. They did what they need to do.
Well, a team that did not take care of their business, and that's the Raiders. Brian, an embarrassing 12 rushes for 40 yards, 3.3. Their longest rush of the day was 6 yards. It's bad. They can't move anybody. Geno Smith leaves the game. Kenny Pickett comes in. Geno was 13 for 21 for 116 yards. He was sacked 3 times against a very good Denver defense. Give me your thoughts here on the Raiders.
Offensive line is bad. It's just, you can't really hide that. I don't know if they're the worst unit in the league, because I think Pro Football Focus has every single LA Chargers starter right now ranked last at their respective positions.
Oh,
but
really?
Okay. Yeah, they're pretty close. But it's just they don't get a lot of push up front. The Broncos have a very good front seven, so obviously this is kind of a nightmare waiting to happen. But Ashton Jean T. May, I don't know. There's not a guy I really feel worse for in Las Vegas right now than him, because phenomenal campaign at Boise State. He comes in. They're kind of saying, hey, we're going to give you the keys to the car. You're going to be the main focus of our offense. You're going to help us turn things around. It's just, you have to be able to block up front, though, right? And they just can't do that. Even for Geno, Kenny Pickett looked decent on that last little drive that he had, but it starts up front. We've talked about it all season, and the Raiders just, they're not good enough. They're not there. I mean, realistically, I'd say they need to retool at least 3 or 4 positions up front to even be competitive going forward. So they're going to be hopefully tuning into our draft prospect show to look at some of the guys we got on the offensive line. But not a lot to write home about if you're the Raiders. I guess the good news is, though, everyone else is kind of winning. So I don't know where they are at draft position right now, but I guarantee you they're top 3 or 4.
Well, Denver's done a good enough job to just keep it moving. Good for them, and then the Raiders still have a long way to go. Probably the game of the day, at least for me, in terms of the Bears and the Packers. They go to Green Bay. The good news, if you're a Bears fan, Joey, is that they're going to play again in 2 weeks, and it'll be in our place. Chicago gets to host that one. 28-21 is the final. Joey, I'm thinking if I'm a Bears fan or a Chicago Bear myself, even though we lost the game, we showed well. It's been a while since we played in an important game in December. We had 86 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception out of my quarterback. We rushed for 138 yards. That's a good show, isn't it? Or is this one where you just go, gosh, I can't believe we lost this game. We should have won it. We didn't. And heaven help us next, 2 weeks from now when we get the rematch against the Packers in our place.
This was a pretty physical game. This was a good game to watch. This was very entertaining. I thought Caleb Williams did a great job controlling the game, controlling the tempo at times. His numbers doesn't necessarily show it. He did have 2 touchdown passes and the interception at the end of the game, which was, it's mercurious from the standpoint of he's rolling to his left and has to flip his body around to try to throw the ball over a defender to get a touchdown. So I'm not excited by the play call at the end of the game there. And I don't know if there was I didn't look at it to see if there was a guy underneath or somewhere else he could have gone with the ball. So that was unfortunate. I mean, it would have taken a perfect throw. You probably have to throw that ball toward the pylon and let the receiver run to the pylon to catch the ball. But to try to throw it over a guy's head is pretty difficult. But with the exception of that, he made 3 or 4 plays in the game that probably he and Mahomes and Josh Allen are probably the only 3 guys that could make a throw like that he made in that game. So that was really impressive. But from Chicago's standpoint, Jordan Love continues to improve. I mean, he was really efficient in the game. Jacobs ran the ball well. I think their offensive line did a lot of good things, which they haven't always done. So this was really competitive. Now, to be quite honest with you, going back to Chicago, I could see the score being the same with Chicago having 28 and Green Bay having 21. I just think right now they're playing at a fairly close level right now.
Would you say this is a confidence boost for the Bears in that even though they lose, they can play well on the road? They're good, and they're anywhere remotely as bad as they were last year at this time, right? This is, like I said at the beginning of this game, it's a meaningful game in December, and Chicago hasn't had that in so many years. I think even though they lost, they fared well enough. A competitive game. It was a 1-score game to where they really can build off this. Let me check who they play next week. I got to, where are they? Against the Browns. Then they got the Packers at their place, and they go to the 49ers and finish against the Lions. So it's a tough schedule, don't get me wrong, but they can get another win here if they play well against Cleveland next week?
They're ahead of schedule. I mean, I think they would. I think the head coach would secretly tell you that. The fans know. I think everybody knows the Bears are ahead of schedule where they have been, and I think Ben Johnson has done a great job with just changing the culture. I mean, they're winning games that they lost last year. Okay, and defensively, they're much. And I have to give Dennis Allen credit because they're defensively, they're a much more physical team this year than they ever were at any point last year. So I just think Chicago's ahead of schedule and really doing a lot of good things. And it's unfortunate that they're in that in the NFC and in that division because guess what? They were the number 1 seed. Now they're the number 7 seed.
Yeah.
And they have 9 wins.
One game. Yeah.
Brian, let's give some credit to Green Bay, right? You leapfrog past Detroit and Chicago in consecutive weeks and really put yourself in a really great spot. You said at the beginning of the year that this was a team that once they had the Micah Parsons trade that you're thinking Super Bowl. We forgot about him for a little while, but is that Super Bowl bet, what is it, 350,000 to 1? The odds are changing a little bit, and Green Bay is kind of earning the respect of the rest of the league now.
Yeah, Jordan Love's kind of figured it out offensively. Christian Watson is back and
healthy. Did he play up to the competition this week? Did Jordan play up?
No, I think it's Christian Watson being back at full strength. I think he was a huge part of what they were doing offensively beforehand. Okay. I think the idea of bringing in Matthew Golden, and then you have Watson, and you have Romeo Doubs. Someone needs to be the number 1 on this team. That was the issue for them. They, like Joey says, they had a lot of 1Bs. They had a lot of wide receiver 2s, but they didn't have an alpha in that receiver room. Ever since Devontae Adams left, they haven't had a guy that commands the attention of, 4 eyeballs, 2 guys in the secondary, and the defensive coordinator scheming for them specifically. And Watson is kind of taking the charge, and I think he's got 5 touchdowns in his last 4 games, which is huge. They don't have to throw it too much. They can still run the ball really, really well with Josh Jacobs, and they showed that. They don't need him to be a superhero, and they don't need Jordan Love to do that. If they can kind of play in tandem and play well enough to win, then you can play from ahead. You bring in Micah Parsons specifically for that so he can pin his ears back, get after the quarterback, make life miserable, and that's what Green Bay has done. They've embraced that identity. They can kind of play on the fly and change what they need to do in order to find a way to win. And I'm going to give Chicago some credit too because they've really embraced the running attack. Monangai and DeAndre Swift, another really good week for them on the ground. It's become kind of their identity. I think if you watch them last year, it's kind of night and day. I think they were asking Caleb Williams to come in and save the franchise last year, whereas now it's more so, hey, don't lose us football games. We're going to let you grow and mature and kind of figure it out and come into your own, but we're going to run the ball. We're going to play some defense. Like Dennis Allen, I think they have the best turnover differential in football. So they're taking care of the ball. They're very sneaky on defense. They bend that they don't break. These are 2 really good teams, and unfortunately, one of them is going to have to go play on the road wild card weekend. It's just the way it is because they're, like Joey said, they're all in the NFC North. There's 3 really good football teams in the NFC North. I wouldn't be surprised if Chicago makes a deep playoff run too. I think this is big for Green Bay, though. I think they're a little older, a little more mature, and coaching-wise, I think that's the truth also. It's interesting to see they're kind of coming in their own, and they're doing it at the right time.
You know what? The funny thing is I think the Packers may be the youngest team in the NFL.
They are, yeah. Yes.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. But it's just I think when Rodgers left, they were kind of in a position where, hey, we're still good though, right? Like we still expect to win some football games, and I think it's just the Bears are new to the expectations. They haven't had the expectations. I think the Packers, it was more so, hey, there's always going to be expectations in Lambeau Field.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we mentioned the schedule. Let's look at Green Bay's. They go to Denver, then they have to play at Chicago, then they have the Ravens at home, and then they finish at Minnesota. So is this a 2-2, Joey and Brian? Is this 2-2 for them, or do they go 3-1 and really justify why they're in first place right now?
I think all those things are on the table because they can play defense. Okay, I think the Denver game may end up being the toughest game from the standpoint of Denver can play defense too. And I think they're going to get after Jordan Love. So I think, in my opinion, that's probably going to be the toughest game, and not taking anything away from everybody else. But it's the next game, and it's the toughest game. But if they can get through that, I think they have a chance to win 3 of those, 3 of the 4.
Brian, 3-1, 2-2. Where do you see them?
I think if they want to continue to be the 2 seed in the NFC, I think 3-1 is probably going to have to happen. I think you got a very good team in Denver. I think you have the Bears who are going to be hungry again for revenge at home. And then I think you have the Ravens, who are probably going to be in desperation mode at that point. So not easy wins by any stretch, but if this team expects to be there in February, I think they kind of need to go 3-1. I think they definitely can go 3-1.
Well, another team that does expect to be in the hunt there in February is the Rams. We've talked about Arizona being so close, guys. They're just a few points away. Not in this one. They're at home. 45-17 is the final. Matthew Stafford throws for 281, 3 touchdowns. They ran the ball well. Rams just dominated, right? It was 24-10 at half. They get another 3 touchdowns in the second half, 2 in the third quarter. Joey, I'll start with you. Rams are for real. Defense is playing well enough to be not just competitive in every game, but when they're on, they can dominate.
Obviously, they have a championship level defense. I mean, they played in the NFC championship game last year versus the Eagles, and probably that was a great chance for them to win that game last year, believe it or not. So I think defensively, the Rams are a really good football team, and as long as offensively they keep doing what they're doing, they have a really good shot of representing the NFC in the Super Bowl, to be quite honest with you. But that being said, I mean, the Cardinals are what the Cardinals have been. I mean, offensively, they did a few things. Brissett played okay, but I would implore you to take a look at where they are now with their record and where they were with Kyler Murray at quarterback with their record. So maybe they've won one more game. Maybe the record's the same. It's all so. At the end of the day, the offense needs an overhaul, whether it's the quarterback. I think Kyler Murray, if I'm being honest, has probably took his last snap with the Cardinals. But again, I'm not sure Jacoby Brissett is the answer. But I will tell you this. They really have a tough time running the ball. And ever since they lost Connor, they have struggled running the ball. Their offensive line has played decently, but they just haven't been able to run the ball. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the offseason, but whatever they do in the offseason, they have to get a running game.
Yeah. And Brian, in college, you're thinking Jacoby Brissett, if he can throw and he can take the ball and make some hay with his legs. He had 4 rushes for 22 yards. He was the leading rusher there for Arizona. They only had 51 yards. The Rams, on the other hand, 249, so almost 5 times as much rushing the ball. Everything seemed to work for the Rams. 281 yards for Stafford. Like I said, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was not sacked. Very smooth. Offensive line looked good. They pushed when they needed to, and they blocked when they needed to. And Rams were very impressive with 45 points.
Yeah, and what Joey said earlier, the Cardinals didn't just lose James Conner. They lost Trey Benson, too. They lost both their running backs. They were kind of hoping a 1-2 punch. Yeah. The 3 guys on the depth chart, your quarterback and both your running backs, who are kind of your tandem, all 3 guys are out and probably won't play another snap the rest of the season. It's hard to overcome that, but this Rams team is a well-oiled machine. They're rolling. Whatever they're doing is working. They're running the ball well. Corum had a great day. Kyron Williams had a great day. Puka Nacua had a great day. Matthew Stafford, I don't know if Matthew Stafford's had a bad day all season. It's just been just consistent with this football team. The defense, they kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit at certain moments, but they were already up 3-4 touchdowns, so it didn't really matter. But, I talked about the Packers. The Rams are very, very real as far as contenders and what they're able to do. They don't have the best home field advantage in the league. I think that's the only downside to having to play there. But, man, they may have the best roster in the league, top to bottom, and they might be the best coach team, top to bottom. So they're going to be a nightmare for anybody that's going to have to probably go play there as well, because there's a good chance they have the best record, at least in the NFC, when all's said and done and the playoffs start.
Well, speaking of playoffs, you got a couple of teams that have an opportunity to get there. Houston at 8-5, they've won 5 in a row. They were 0-3 at one point. So have they turned this around, Joey? I mean, their defense is absolutely fantastic. They play well. They beat the Colts, the Bills, the Titans, the Jaguars. They lost to the Broncos in a close one. They win against the 49ers. They lose to the Seahawks. They beat the Ravens, beat the Titans. So these aren't the best teams in the league that they're beating, but they're winning at the right time and giving themselves a shot to win the division.
Yeah, you got to give the Texans credit. I mean, because defensively, they are a really good football team. And in this game, they did a really good job versus Kansas City and Mahomes. Mahomes missed a few passes that normally he would make.
Yep.
But, however, I don't want to say but, I'm going to say however.
However,
that offensive line is as bad as he's had his whole tenure in Kansas City. And then you have receivers, tight ends dropping the ball, especially in key situation. He's running for his life. He's making throws, putting it on them, or a little behind in a couple cases, and they're dropping balls. So I just think, obviously, their reign as the AFC West champion is over. But, they probably will miss the playoffs. I was of the mindset, they could still, and they probably could sneak in as a wild card, but given the issues on the offensive line, I can't see them finding a way to run the table to winning 4 in a row, because I just have no confidence in this offensive line, especially protecting the quarterback and creating a run game. But the Texans, on the other hand, I expect them to probably win that division, because defensively they are able to control the line of scrimmage on the defensive side of the ball. They're getting pass rush from both edge rushers and up the middle. Defensively, they do a good job. They have Azur, I think is his name, is a really good linebacker. They have Stingley at corner. So they do a really good job defensively of applying pressure to quarterback and making the quarterback have to get the ball off his hands. So I'm really impressed with what the Texans have done. I'm still not super excited by some of the things I see in CJ Stroud. I know he's coming back from injury. He scares me when pressure gets in his face. Sometimes he's not as calm and as collected as a couple other quarterbacks I've seen. But if they can stay out of having the offense have to go out and win the game, I think their defense can carry them a long way.
Well, one thing that the defense did is just give them a chance to win at the end of the game, Brian. Here's the thing that I thought was interesting. It was 10-0 at the half. It was tied at 10 at the end of the third. And then another 10 points, a real differentiator is this is what Kansas City is supposed to do. This is what they've been doing now for the last 7, 8, 9 years, right? And they come back and they find a way to win. They weren't able to do it at home when they absolutely needed to. So is this a compliment for how good the Texans are right now when they need to be, or is this just we're looking at a much older, slower, and less explosive Chiefs offense, and one that it just doesn't have that same mojo that they had just 2, 3, 4 years ago?
I think it's a culmination of both. The Texans did a phenomenal job. Now, Stroud didn't play incredibly well, but he played well enough to win the game. The defense set him up a couple times. Just, hey, let's go kick a field goal. Let's go score a touchdown. Let's flip the field, whatever it was. And that's what this Texans defense has done all season. But Rashee Rice had drops. Mahomes had throws that he just missed. That you usually, he makes those throws. And Travis Kelce dropped 2 passes. One was an interception that really decided the game late. It was the last time they had the ball. Well, second to last time. Other than that, it was already out of reach. But this Chiefs team is making mistakes. They're doing things that we're not used to seeing. It's just you see the frustration boiling on the sidelines. You used to see it on the other sidelines when you're watching the Chiefs play, right? It's just like, hey, man, we can't find a way to beat these guys. And right now, the Chiefs they can't find a way to win football games. It doesn't matter. The defense was good enough. Chris Jones played a really good game. It's kind of getting overshadowed by the final score and the loss, but Chiefs are going to be looking for answers. It's going to be a weird offseason for them. And like Joey said, I don't think this is a playoff team. They're bad enough to where I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And even if they did, I don't think they'd beat anybody on wild card weekend anyways, because it's just it's kind of ugly to watch. They're not scoring. They're not doing a whole heck of a lot. And Patrick Mahomes will probably tell you he's probably not having a lot of fun anymore.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame when you're flicking the ball behind your back and sideways and while you're running out of bounds, and it works, and it's not working right now. Real struggle for them, and maybe a playoff change in Kansas City, which we haven't seen in quite a while. They've been so good, especially at home over the past 5, 6, 7 years, just dominating. Well, 2 teams that will make the playoffs. Let's look at this Monday night game that just ended a few moments ago. It goes to overtime. Charger field goal with about 7 minutes left to go in the ball game ends up being the decider. 22-19. Joey, real quick, Chargers at 9-4 keep pace with the Broncos. You need something like that. Herbert is just playing well enough to help them win. Rushing obviously is a key for any Harbaugh team, and stopping the run Give me your thoughts here on how the Chargers now at 9-4 and the Eagles at 8-5 differentiate between the two of them for me.
Well, I'll say this: I didn't. Obviously, we didn't get to see a whole lot of this game. But what I saw, I mean, Herbert is a tough competitor. He got beat up a lot in this game, physically, and they were going after his hand. But guess what? He kept coming back. He was able to run the ball when it opened up. He wasn't afraid. He made a couple throws of going across his body, throwing strikes. So Herbert is a winning level quarterback. Amarion Hampton was back. He helped tonight. Vidal, the running back who took a spot while he was out, played well. But this was, in my opinion, a lot more about the Eagles than the Chargers. The Chargers were able to keep pace with being a wild card team, because I don't think anybody's going to catch Denver. So I think that they're keeping pace with being a wild card team. The Eagles, on the other hand, they play up and down, and in the last 3 weeks, it's been more down than up. Hurts had 4 turnovers tonight, 3 interceptions,
5,
five.
He threw a pick in overtime. Yeah,
there you go. The so he had 5 total turnovers tonight, and there's not a team in the National Football League who can win with 5 turnovers. That kind of sums it up in a nutshell. Between the 4 interceptions and the fumble off another interception that was picked up.
2 turnovers on 1 play. Yeah.
So he had 5 total turnovers. Now Saquon was able to get some life, and they ran the ball pretty well in spurts tonight. I'm still, AJ Brown. That's a whole nother issue. I know they force him the ball, but it's like recently we talked about this a couple shows ago. When they force him the ball or he has numbers, they lose. So I don't know what the stats were tonight. But I do know early they were forcing him the ball. And in the first pass of the game, Jalen was in trouble, went deep, and had AJ laid out for the ball, he would have caught it. He didn't, and it put him behind the chain. So that's been kind of their season in a nutshell. So now they're on a 2 or 3 game. Like I said, they've probably lost 3 of the last 4 games, I think. So it's going to be a tough battle, because I'm thinking they're still going to win the division, but they're going to go into the playoffs not playing their best. So it'll be interesting to see where they are.
Big enough lead in the division right now, Brian, to hold off Dallas. It's a 2-game difference right now. They play the Commanders twice. They've got the Raiders next week. They've got the Bills. So really, Philadelphia could go 3-1 and kind of walk in, but they're not playing well, as Joey said. So who knows if the Raiders don't say, not on my watch, we're not going to see it happen. What are your thoughts here about Philadelphia and the struggles that they have right now at 8-5?
Well, they got 3 get-right games on the schedule, but it's going to have to be a get-right season for this offense, because it's bad. If you take away that Saquon run, which there may or may not have been a hold on that play that wasn't called, this team scored 12 points. They ran very few plays in the red zone. They did not have a lot of success. Kevin Patullo is their offensive coordinator, and I don't know how he's still calling plays. We talked about it earlier. It's just something's got to give. You got to change something, right? At a certain point, you got to make a decision and try to find a jolt, find something with this offense, because I think the worst of it all now is your starting quarterback, who was lights out in the Super Bowl just 10 months ago. He's lost his mojo. I think he's lost his confidence too. It's ugly. It's not looking good. And I think Philadelphia, because they played well enough earlier in the year, I think they're still a playoff team. They should be favored just about every game going forward, depending on if Buffalo, can't move up or whatever the rest of their starters week 18. But it's ugly in Philadelphia. Give the Chargers a lot of credit. They're down 3 starting offensive linemen. Justin Herbert's having to carry the ball in his right hand the whole time because he's got a fracture in his left hand. Derwin James gets hurt in this game, and they still find a way to squeak out a win that they needed to keep pace the AFC West. But Chargers are moving in kind of the opposite direction of Philadelphia. They're winning games, and they're feeling really good. And if you're Philadelphia, it's going to be a long plane ride back home.
Yeah, well, Jalen Hurts had 19 touchdowns, 2 interceptions prior to this game. Obviously, it's going to change, but that's pretty impressive if you ask me. His completion percentage is at 66. It was a little over 50 today. There's just a lot of things that are off just a little bit to where the receivers aren't getting the extra yard. We don't have as many touchdowns, obviously, as they've had in the past. But are they good enough, Joey? I'll ask you and Brian the same question. Are they good enough not just to win division, but are they good enough today compared to what we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years to be able to get a first or maybe even a second round win in the playoffs?
They are not.
Yeah.
Their offense is just so pedestrian, and that's the difference. I mean, defensively, you can give up yards. I mean, you can do this. I mean, those things are going to happen. But offensively, their scheme is completely different than the scheme they were in last year. Obviously, you have a new coordinator because your old coordinator is now the head coach with the Saints. So you bring in a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, was never a coordinator before. So he was kind of unproven walking in the door at that position. But it just looks elementary. You kind of know where the receivers are going to end up. You know what the motion is going to be when you get motion. Everything just looks. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I've seen 7-on-7 camps that's got more imagination in their offensive scheme than I've seen with the Eagles this year. Yeah. So I just don't know how far that offense can take them.
Brian, same question to you. Do the Eagles have that same configuration where they could run the push? Anything on fourth down was going to be a first down, and the consistency in the third down conversion rate. All of it seems like it's dropped off quite a bit this year.
Well, they were a team last year. If it's third and less than 5, you thought they were going to convert either on 1 or 2 plays. It was just consistency, right? They could run the ball. I mean, they could just hand it to Saquon and get him a full head of steam going forward. They get 2 or 3 yards every single play just doing that. And it's just, there's no push up front. They kind of remind me a lot of the Atlanta Falcons post Super Bowl year, right? 2016, you get Shanahan, you have all these great minds on the offensive play calling, in the coaching staff. They had LaFleur, they had McDaniels, they had Shanahan, they had all these guys here, and then everybody leaves, and you try to rekindle the magic the next year, but it's just not quite the same. The timing's a little bit off, and the plays, it's just not quite there. We're not calling it at the right time, and they're kind of reminding me a lot of that, and it shows you how valuable, why a lot of these teams are going to go out, they're going to try to get the hot coordinator as far as, new coaching hires, whatever it is, because sometimes that is the difference for a football team, and you have a very talented Philadelphia Eagles team. They're almost the same team they were last year, and it's just, they look like a shell of themselves right now, and it's ugly, and it's just at this stage, like I've said it, for the last few weeks, they are what they are. I mean, we're through week 14. This is who they are. They're going to have to be a team that's going to have to maybe find 1 or 2 big plays and rely on their defense, who had 7 sacks, by the way. They had a phenomenal game on defense. It's just overshadowed by the turnovers, and they're finding ways to lose games, whereas last year it was the opposite. They're just finding ways to win.
Well, there you got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk real quick about the leaders in each division, the AFC East. The New England Patriots at 11-2. They had a bye this week. Pittsburgh gets a great win against Baltimore. They are 7-6. They're the leaders there. 9-4 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Denver Broncos are 11-2. In the NFC, the East is owned by the Eagles right now at 8-3. The Giants had a bye week. The Packers are ahead at 9-3-1 in the North. The South is Tampa and Carolina, who, by the way, had a bye week. They're both tied at 7-6, and the Rams and the Seahawks both at 10-3. Joey, final thoughts from you here on National Football League Week 14 as we get ready to put a bow on it and close it up for the rest of the year. We're going to go to Week 15 next.
Well, December football is different, as we know. Again, like I said last week, it comes down to coaching some, but it comes down who can run the ball, and physicality matters in the National Football League, and the teams that are most physical and can run the ball will usually prevail. But again, it's December football. Wacky things happen sometimes. But you also, the way the schedule is set up, you also have a lot of rivalry games, which makes it really competitive. So The next game in Chicago and Green Bay, it'll be in Chicago. That's a rivalry game. You got Carolina playing in Tampa late. That'll be a rivalry game. I mean, all those games, you have games coming down toward the end that really mean something for teams and are important from a playoff standpoint. So NFL football is fun. It's been great.
Brian, there's got to be some verticality. You got to go deep. You got to take it. You got to, get it down the field. Your thoughts here, finally, or at least, tying a bow on the Week 14 portion of the season that's we're going to say goodbye to.
All the divisions are still kind of wide open, with the exception of the AFC West because the Broncos are 2 up. But every single division probably going to be decided within the last week or two with a lot of, like Joey mentioned, the rivalry games, the divisional games. The weather gets weird. It's really when you kind of find out what your football team is. Whether you're playoff bound or not, you figure out who you are based on can we go and can we beat a good team that has our number, that we play a bunch and they know us and we know them in a game where you got to have it. And we're going to have a lot of those coming up. We're down the home stretch. We're in the last month. So I'm excited for it. And not a lot of teams already eliminated, but a lot of teams still got some very meaningful football games coming up in the next few weeks.
Yep, absolutely. So for Joey Clinkscales, former player, general manager, personnel director, scout, Brian LeBel, our NFL and NCAA analyst, I'm Harper LeBel saying thank you for tuning in. Week 14 is in the books here for the National Football League. We hope that your team plays better next week than what they did this week and gets another win if they've already won this week. But we certainly want to let you know that December, as Joey said, December football is a little bit different. You're going to see a lot of snowflakes, a little cold rain, and obviously a lot more jackets that are in the stands for all the folks that are there. But we'll be there for all of it. We'll be at week 15 next week. We appreciate